Oh, hey, what's up, cool kids? Well, the deluge of 2023 is upon Southern California right now in January, and I'm stuck inside in my Baja pretending to be a gnome. That's where we're at. But I'm not going to let this day go to waste because on a recent ride, probably a few months back, I found someone had put out on the curb a perfectly good bicycle trailer. Now, this is intended to be a stroller for children, but I'm going to turn it into a solar storage shed to charge a battery system to power my e-bike, and I'm going to take it on the road with me as a part of my first bike packing adventure. I think this is super exciting. We're going to build this thing from what we have here this time on Make&Believe. Right, so as you can probably see, the brand name here is Everyday. I did some research. They seem to be based in the UK. Pretty much, I really scored on this. All of the parts are with it, including the handle for the back, where you can push it like a stroller with children inside. The front wheel mount. It also comes with the bar to mount to your bike. It comes with everything I need, essentially, to begin this project. I really love the base. It's lightweight. It's super simple. The only thing that was missing is the connector that goes onto the back wheel of your bike that the bar that replaces this front wheel plugs into. Not a big deal. I reached out to Everyday. They are shipping me one now. It's coming from overseas, so it might take a little bit of time to get here. So in the interim, I'm going to go ahead and start the build and attach it when it comes in. So, the first thing I want to do, I love the frame of this. I'm not sure how much I want to keep. I don't know that the handlebars need to stay here, but they might in the end. I'm not really sure where this design is going to go. The first thing I'm going to do is strip off all of this fabric, take this thing down to the frame, down to the bare bones, remove the wheel, attach the bar, and start with the minimalist version of this that I can possibly achieve. Then we're going to build it up from there. We're going to use lightweight panels. We're going to try to make this completely watertight. We're going to give the maximum amount of surface area on the top for solar panels, and then I'm going to figure out a permanent housing solution and the proper inverter and battery bank for the inside so that I can plug my e-bike charger in after charging from the sun on a long day's ride, charge the bike up at night, and be topped up and ready to go in the morning. That's the plan. I know that's not a lot of specifics, but we'll figure it out as we go along. Okay, so first I want to take this handlebar off. I actually added this little carabiner tied on here because when I picked this up off the street, I was on my baby Schwinn with my tow ring on the back, and I was able to carabiner clip that on and just pull this puppy home, and that worked out quite nicely, but that's not the future of this device. So I'm going to take this whole thing off altogether, and it turns out it looks pretty easy. We've got these two buckles, one on each side. If I just push really hard, I can pop that off and pull the pin. And it's that simple. I'm going to do both of those, pull this off, and then we'll go from there. All right, that was easy. We've got a couple of nubs sticking out here, but I'm not really worried. And again, in the end, those handlebars may come back and get clipped on once this whole thing is stripped down. Now look, my engineering mind wants me to take this apart piece by piece and take this off because look, it was put on there. There has to be a way, methodically, to take it back off without damaging it, but I really don't care about any of this fabric. It's going directly in the trash, or well, you know, it's going somewhere. It's going to be recycled or completely. It's going out to pasture is my point, so we're not going to reuse it here in the shop, and I'm going to go ahead and tear it apart with my knife and get down to the frame. All right, cool. That was cathartic and, you know, pretty easy. I'm pretty happy with where we're at right now. Now, I did remove the front wheel, which was the same process of just removing a couple of those bracket clips like the handlebars and kind of sliding the two sides out. And what replaces it to go onto the bike is one of these guys. This end buckles in where one arm of the wheel holder was, and then this end has a bit of a bendy action going on and is what attaches to the rear wheel hub of my bicycle. Once that mount comes in, of course. So I'm not entirely sure how it works yet, and I probably won't be until I get the mount in on the bike and I can line this up and figure out exactly how it's supposed to go, and then which side of this frame it's supposed to bolt into. I've never used one of these before, so I don't really know. I'm sure I could pull up like a picture online on Google Images and figure it out, but I'm just going to wait till the part comes in at this point to work on that part. But I do have everything stripped down to the frame, and this is super lightweight and super maneuverable, and I'm really pleased with it. So for now, I'm going to call this good, wait for my part to come in, and I'm going to start to strategize how I want to rebuild this frame in a lightweight fashion that can still support things like solar panels, an inverter, and a power bank in the interim. Well, that's cool. I was about to call it a night here when I realized that now that I've broken this down to the frame, I really should paint it to match the e-bike itself. Now this is going to be a solar trailer for the Copper Chopper, which you may have seen some videos on in the past. So I'm going to paint it copper, and I thought I better pop the wheels off to do that, and it turns out that is remarkably easy. It's one of those buckle clasps on each wheel, and they slide right out of the bracket. Really excellent design. So I'm going to pop the other wheel out next, and then tomorrow probably, hopefully, if we get some sunshine, I can take this frame outside and get it painted. Alright, I'm fairly happy with how this is coming out so far. I actually put the handlebars back on. Let's start at the top here. But I put them on upside down, which gives me a bit of this, like, a bit more of that front-facing curve, which I think I might like to work with. I might flip them back over because it's more smooth, like, and giving me a flat surface on the top. But I kind of like this shape that's ending up here. It would still be very aerodynamic, and it might allow me to attach, eventually, my solar panels back there, as well as on the front face, which is kind of the overall design scheme I've got going on in my head for this particular trailer so far. I was able to pop the wheels on and off pretty easily to paint the frame. I love the frame color. It's the same paint that I used for the Copper Chopper itself, so it's going to match really nicely. I did not end up painting the handlebars or the connector bar. Those actually line up pretty well with the silver chromish color that is also accented on the Copper Chopper. So far we've got the copper, we've got the silver, and we've got the black, which is fitting right in design with the scheme for the Copper Chopper. In fact, quick shot. There she is. That beauty right there. Yeah. So I'm still waiting for the adapter to come in, but I'm pretty happy with how we've got so far. The next step for me is going to be redoing the structure, the walls, the floor, etc., and making this thing watertight because there are going to be electronics inside of it in the end, and then coming up with a way to make a hatch that pops open, probably on the front end, because that's the way I'm going to want to access it. Although I may end up going to the back end and having a hatch back there and making this solid and just have like a gasket port come out with my charge cables. I don't really know yet. I'm going to take this thing one step at a time and kind of let the trailer itself inform the build process as I go forward. I'm going to try to keep my materials as lightweight as possible. I originally thought I might want to work with some like aluminum sheet here because that would really look nice and it would kind of pop some chrome color into this design against the copper. But the more I think about it, I can add paint to anything, and aluminum sheet is kind of difficult to work with. It's you know, shapeable, but it gets really sharp when you cut it, and I don't know, I just don't know that that's the way that I want to go with this in the end. So I think I might be steering more towards like corrugated plastic sheeting or something. But at any rate, the next step for me is going to be to get a watertight seal on the floor, and as you can see, the way this was designed, there is a notch that runs all the way around the interior here, and that's where they had that cloth floor in originally. I'm going to replace that probably with some sort of sheeting, and then on top of it I'm going to run, I think, wood paneling all the way across. to make a nice solid floor so that I can put things on this and not worry about them popping through, you know, weak plastic or that degrading over time. But I still want to get the watertight seal on the bottom. And once the floor is done, I'm going to start to worry about the side panel walls. And then I'll come in on the back, and then finally we will deal with the hatch. And at that point, it'll be time to start mounting solar panels. That's the plan. Here we go. Okay, so first things first, with the frame, I needed to seal the bottom and make it watertight. It doesn't need to be airtight specifically, but watertight. I don't want water kicking up as I'm riding along on the roads during a rainstorm. So I hit the Home Depot up. I got 3 sheets of this stuff at 36 inches by 24 inches, so 3 feet by 2 feet. This is Coroplast polypropylene. If you can see right there is what the sheet is. It's essentially corrugated plastic. So it is full of air and a ribbed design. And what I did was I cut it to fit the frame so that it slid into this track on both sides, and I cut a pattern along the front to make it fit, essentially just tracing, holding it up, clamping it to the frame, tracing a line. It was longer than it needed to be, so I knew that this front edge would slide in if I could get it to go down far enough, and then cut the back off. So that worked, and I trimmed both edges. It was really difficult to get this stuff down in that channel because it's just a little too wide, honestly, but it has a bit of compression capability, so I was able to just work it back and forth until I got it into the groove track. And now that it is there, I'm going to caulk the back to make sure I've got a watertight seam, and then from there I can put the whole thing back together again, nuts and bolts wise, take it back down to the ground, and start to worry about the real floor that's going to support the weight of the tech that's going in there. I almost forgot. So I unhooked these guys from the frame here to move them up and get them out of the way of bringing this down in line. In order to re-engage this frame with the slot where it goes, I'm going to need to put a couple holes through this and get the frame reconstructed. So actually I'm going to change the order of operations here, and I'm going to redo the frame first, cut those holes, and then do the caulking on the bottom so that I can make sure everything is nice and tight, including those holes. Okay, so now that I have the waterproofing layer done on the bottom, it's time to add some actual flooring so that I can support some serious weight in this thing. And I have scoured my attic. When we first bought this house, we redid all of the floors with hardwood floors, and I have some leftover bamboo, and I think it's going to be just enough to do this, and that's it. And maybe not even enough. We'll see. Anyway, this is what it looks like. Bamboo flooring. It's super, super lightweight. I've also got some oak and some teak up there, and like this is half the weight of either of those. So I'm hoping it's going to work out okay. It is tongue and groove, so that'll be nice. However, as you may recall from before I put this waterproofing layer in, it's just hollow and open here in the middle. So I think what I'm going to need to do, in addition to securing the bamboo to each side here, is I'm going to need to run something along the middle and the bottom to secure all these pieces together, because I don't want to just count on wood glue to hold them together. I want to screw them in both to the frame and to each other. Yeah, and I want to be able to, if I need to, take the floorboard section out. So I'm actually going to try to build it, cut it to size, mock it up so that it lays in there properly, and then screw in the middle piece to support everything together after I've, glue these in one at a time as if I'm laying flooring. And then I'll have the whole piece that can lay in. That's the plan anyway. It may not work out that way because of the logistics of getting it in, but we'll see. I'll see if that can work. So my width across is about 24 inches. These are longer than that. What they're going to give me after I've cut 24 inches out of each one of these 5 pieces that I have left over is a little more than a foot. So those foot pieces can be cut down to size, joined together 2 and 1 to make a 2-foot section. And what I'll end up having is a whole board, 2 boards, a whole board, 2 boards, and that'll be the repeating pattern all the way down. When I lay flooring, I like to make it a little more varied than that, but it is what it is, and this is what we've got to work with. So I think that's going to work out just fine. All right, we're coming along nicely here. I have got most of the flooring laid out except for this front bit. It did take some tricky little jig cuts to account for where the frame is going to come down in. And I caulked too soon down there. I'm going to have to come back and recaulk those two gaskets and back there on the bottom once this whole build is done. But that's fine, not a big deal. So I think I've got it clear now where I can put the frame back together and then screw the flooring in and then start to work on the front forward to the edge. I don't, however, have a lot of bamboo left. I've got one longer board where I've marked my curves, but that will not take me out to the front. So I'm going to have to start using little bits that I've cut off for that very front row, and we'll see how it works out. Right, so as I am wont to do, I like to reuse all of these salvage screws that I have found and collected in the past, and I have these self-tappers that will work pretty nicely lengthwise. I've gone ahead and driven 4 of them in like the key foundational spot, and I used washers on those because I had washers that would fit with these self-tappers to give a little bit more surface area grab to get started. And honestly, the whole floorboard, it's just not going anywhere. I don't know that I need any more, but I'm going to go ahead and use some more of these guys, probably on the center bolts, maybe at the back, and maybe again when I get to the front. I don't know. I'm just going to add a few more because better safe than sorry, right? I don't want things breaking down, or I don't want to just have to rely on 4 bolts if I hit a really bumpy road and snap a bolt at some point during my trip. So that's the plan. I'm going to continue to build out with these, and then I will start to worry about closing up the front. All right, overall, I'm pretty pleased with the way that this turned out, and what an excellent use of my remaining bamboo from my flooring project. I did punch through with my pinhole drill from the backside a little bit, and I'd rather have it smooth than pretty, so I did put a little bit of sandpaper on the top of that perfect finish that these hardwood floors come with. In the end, I don't really care about any of that. The one thing that is bothering me at this point is this front bit, and I have some pieces left. I've got a longer chunk and some little bits that I cut off of these pieces to make them fit properly, but it's just not enough. I mean, it's enough, but it'll be like 7 seams across the front, and I just think that would look ugly. So I don't want to do it. I've got a couple options. I might seek out the lumber supply company where we got this bamboo originally and see if I can just get one single piece of off-cut nasty, because every time they put out 100 or 200 pieces of this stuff, 1 or 2 of them comes out not looking that great. These were actually my not looking that great boards that we didn't use in our master suite, so that's why they were left over and surplus here today. If I could just pick up 1 more of those boards, I could probably finish the front and it would look clean and perfect. However, that being said, the option that's probably more likely is that I'm just going to forget about using bamboo altogether for that front bit, and what I'm going to do instead, I think, is take a design cue from the bike and figure out, I don't know, some sort of 3D printed, like I did with the gas tank here, where it's storage for tools, some sort of 3D printed option here to put something on the front, maybe in 2 halves so that they both come off separately, maybe all one piece. I don't want it to go too high up because the hatch is still going to pop up and raise that way, I think. Although I could bring it out, I don't know, I think the easiest access point is if it raises this way and I get in from the front, especially since I want electrical cables to be able to go to the front to connect to the bike. Boy, so what I think I'm going to do, well, I don't know. I'll ask my wife, because she's the one that orders this bamboo, or ordered it originally. But it's been years ago, so I don't know that I can even find it if I did look for it. I think the best option here is to design and 3D print some custom storage containers there for the front, and figure out exactly what would be best to store there. Yeah, I think that's the plan. All right, so while I was brainstorming about what to do with the front, I did start to tack on panels here and here, and so far I just tacked it with super glue, which is actually holding a lot better than I thought it would, but it's just a tack, it's not a bond. And my plan is to next take this weather stripping. I'm going to cut these 2 pieces into singular strips so that they're thinner, and I'm going to go around the inside edges here to make sure that we are nice and watertight.
But that's also not going to be the seal. I'm going to come around the back. You can see I only painted the one side silver. The inside will remain white. Why waste paint? But I'm going to caulk a bead of caulk along the edges on the inside here, but I'm not going to do that until I've got all of my panels in place, because I want to be able to join them that way on the inside, and that'll really provide the seal. And you know, if these break and come off again, not the end of the world. They're lightweight, they're cheap materials, and I think I can fix that pretty easily on the fly, pretty much anywhere I happen to be.
For the front, instead of recreating the wheel and trying to 3D print something, I actually went to my storage cabinet, and I have a bunch of these containers that I've used a billion times for everything, and they actually clamp down pretty well and make a pretty nice watertight seal at the top here. So what I'm going to do is actually butt 2 of these back to back. I'm going to paint them, or at least the lids for now, to match the color scheme of the bike trailer and the bike itself. And then I'm going to screw them in, and what I'll have here is storage for essentially, well, anything that needs to be watertight in case it rains in a hurry. And what I really think I might keep in here is tarp and plastic bag stuff that I would like to use to keep the trailer and the bike itself dry if a rainstorm comes into play. I have leather panniers and a leather handlebar bag, things like that. They're just, you know, they'll handle the rain, they're not going to die, but they're also not watertight and waterproof themselves, so anything inside those bags risks being wet in a rainstorm. So if I can keep some, you know, tarps and sheeting on hand, nice and lightweight, but there in case of an emergency, and then we'll see how much room is left in these containers for other things.
Okay, so to finish up this front portion, I've got the perfect piece of redwood here, scrap from another project, already stained and sealed. I have screwed it in. It's nice and secure there with those 2 screws. I think that's all it's going to take, because the stuff that's going to go on this is really just not going to be that heavy. I've pre-drilled holes and preloaded bolts on the bottom here that will correspondingly match up with my holes here. And I've gone ahead and glued and screwed to secure these 2 together at the base. So now it's just a matter of putting it all together and then figuring out what's going to go in there.
I really love how this front compartment is coming out so far. I am going to leave the compartments themselves clear, although, I don't know, maybe in the future I'll take them off and paint them opaque so that you can't see what's in them, but I think it's going to be all right, and I kind of like the clear accent. I don't usually add many colors to the color story, but since this is just translucent, is that even a color? I don't know. Anyway, I did paint my lids with the hammered copper spray to match the color aesthetic, the story we have going on here. However, you will notice that the Premiere logo is still showing, so what I'm going to do is take my Even Star logo. I printed out a couple of these a while back. I have a whole stack of these, actually, but I have a few extras in black that I have painted the lettering silver, and I'm going to attach it there to make it custom for my own look.
All right, that came out really nice, actually. I love it. Looking really good. Really good so far. All right, so I went ahead and started working on the panel while I had paint drying. And I've got one of them cut out here. I need to cut out the next one and paint it as well before I apply this, because I'm going to use that as a template since both sides are pretty much the same. And once I have the sides on, then what we're really left with here is the front hatch, and what I think I've decided is going to also be a back hatch before I can start to build out the payload for this awesome, awesome trailer. So yeah, that'll be next. Yeah, dude, it's coming along. All right, I've got both walls on. I've got my weather stripping on the outside. It's looking pretty sick, I have to be honest. I'm pretty stoked about it. I have not yet done the caulk on the inside edges, on the seams, to hold everything together. So everything is really just tacked at this point. But yeah, I can see what the frame looks like now, and I think that internal seam caulking is going to be the next step of the process here. And then I can work on the hatches. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention. Let me just come around the back. Doot, doot, doot. All right. Yeah, it looks good. Look how reflective these panels are, too. I think that's sick. I am going to put some reflectors in the back, and I came back here to talk about this bottom portion here. I'm going to put a piece of redwood across the back there, stained and sealed for water protection, just like I did up at the front underneath those watertight storage containers. I'm going to put a strip along the back here so that I can add reflectors to it, and I think turn signals, and maybe even a brake light. I really, really like this. I don't know if you can see it in there. So my tail light is here, but then my brake light is above it. In fact, let me just turn it on for you here. That thing right there. I really like this thing. And the turn signals especially. Here's one for you. Love it. I freaking love that thing. So I think I'm going to buy another one and put it on the back there. It is controlled by this little remote control up here, and what I think I can do, I don't know, if I get another one of the units, this might work for both of them. I don't know how it's programmed. It might be coded to the individual one that they sell it with. I'm not really entirely sure, but if it's separate and there are two and I need two remotes, I can always swap this one out when I've got the trailer on, so that, you know, I'm using the one with the furthest back brake light, tail light, turn signal system. Alternatively, I can mount the other one on the other side and use, you know, either or as needed. Yeah, so that's the plan. I'm going to move forward with the seam caulking, the back plate, and the two hatches. And then I think we're in pretty good shape to start loading it up with payload. Okay, I've finished up the sealant. And, you know, you could probably use, like, any caulking for this. But what I ended up using was this Gorilla Glue construction adhesive. It's super, super strong bonding, and it bonds to wood and to foam board, which were the two materials that I'm working with here. So you know what? Might as well work with something that's specifically made for your materials. And this stuff is super tough. I actually used it on our gate for our house, and it bonded to the brick and to the wood really well. So I'm pretty confident this is going to give me a nice waterproof seal. And you know, it's not the prettiest job of caulking I've ever done, but I'd much rather have it watertight and secure than pretty. And it's all on the inside anyway. So next steps, actually before I work on the hatch, let's hop around here to the rear. I have installed this piece of redwood so that I can mount my taillight when it comes in, and it should be in today. The next step I think I'm going to do is install my solar panel, and as I mentioned earlier, I put this handlebar back on and flipped it upside down so it has this like bit of an angle on it here, and I think the plan is to mount my solar panel right in the middle so that I can still use the handles on either side of it, but so that the solar panel has a bit of an angle towards the sun. Yeah, and then I can run my wiring down through the back hatch and work on the hatches as the final step of the process. So that's kind of the plan. I've got a solar panel here that is actually a charger, a battery charger, and it is reading 23 volts. It seems to be reading 0.16 amps, so that should give me about 3 to 4 watts, 3.5 watts of power. When I get the power bank system in, I'm going to test it probably before I do the install here, just to make sure this is the panel that I want to use and I don't have to unwind the process, but that's the plan. Alright, so I was just going through essentially all of my solar panels that I have. I have a few just laying around that I've put to various uses over the years. These two are not in very good condition, but they're kind of my favorites because they just perform well no matter how beat up they get. I haven't had a lot of success with this solar panel, but it's very pretty, and pretty is a good thing for the outside of my bike trailer. So I thought I would take a look at this one further, and what I did was I got into this box on the back and essentially took it apart and realized the wiring was all messed up and it was really corroded. So I took some sandpaper to it. It's in a lot better condition now, and it is reading its nominal voltages again. So as you can see here on the readout for when this was put together, the max power is supposed to be 10 watts. The operating voltage is 17 volts. Now I'm assuming that after this box, which is just the direct open circuit wiring coming from the panel, this went to you know, some sort of a voltage regulator to bring it down to 17, which was delivering the 10-watt max power. That's my guess. I don't really know because I haven't put this one into practice in gosh, probably a decade. It's just been sitting around here. At any rate, when I just tested it after cleaning up the wiring, I actually was getting that open circuit voltage of 21.6. Really, it was like 21.3, but that's pretty darned close. And probably just due to, you know, some cloud cover or just not getting full exposure on the panels. I was getting more than the 0.58 amps of operating current. I was actually getting up to 0.7 when I got it lined up perfectly with the sun. But, you know, that's not going to be every moment of every day. So I think we could 0.5 or 0.4 even would be a better calculation. So essentially, I'm going to be getting between anywhere between 8 and 15 8 and 15 watts from this panel, which is way better than the like 4 I was getting out of this trickle charger cell. So I think I'm going to go with this one instead. Again, I don't have the battery bank here yet that I'm going to install into the trailer, but I think this is just going to be a better bet. If I just run some back of the hand calculations, the power bank I got is 300 watt hours. So essentially, if I'm delivering 10 watts per hour, we're looking pretty good here. If I'm doing 15, that would just be insane. So obviously, this is not the main panel that's going to be charging the battery bank. The battery bank comes with its own panels that are specific for that, but this is just going to be an ambient charger that's built into the trailer so that whether or not I'm stopped and have my full solar panels pointed at the sun, I can always get a bit of a trickle charge while I'm riding or while the trailer is parked, and keep some electricity flowing into my battery bank pretty much at all times. Yeah, so back of the hand calculations for a 300 watt hour power bank, if I'm getting that 10 watt hours that the panel is rated at, we're looking at essentially 30 hours to charge the power bank to full. If I am getting the 15 watts that it looks like I'm getting directly from the open circuit, and that's, you know, something that I can expect to be a regular production value, I mean, that's 20 hours still to charge the battery just on the ambient single panel alone. I could always add more panels if I wanted to the trailer itself, but I think just this one is going to be enough initially, and we'll just see how it works. Again, the power bank comes with fold-out solar panels that I'm going to keep inside the trailer, but when I get to where I'm going or to a stopping rest area, I can deploy them and set them up to get more charge power, and that is going to involve some wiring. So essentially, the panels that the power bank comes with are made to plug directly into the DC input. I want that panel to go into the DC input at all times, so I'm going to have to create a circuit where I can plug the foldable panels into the wiring from that panel, and they can all go into the DC input all at once. So I'll have to do a little bit of circuitry there. More on that when I have the hardware in hand. Cool, making some good progress here. I have mounted the solar panel, and it's on there really well actually so far. A single bolt on each side through a piece of redwood, which kind of matches the rest of the redwood I've put on into the color story here. I like working with redwood, and plus I have a lot of it just laying around from past projects. Yeah, a bolt and a nut nicely tightened here. I drilled through the handlebar rig, which actually also drilled through the end of this pole. So that's where those two poles come together, as you can see by the buckle, and the bolt comes in front of the buckle right there. And it works out really nicely, actually. And then to the bottom of the solar panel, it already had these, let's see if I can zoom in. You see those little notches there for mounting? It had those on both sides, so I went ahead and mounted the bottom side to the redwood board, and that's all that's holding it so far. I probably will run some zip cord through these three and around this handlebar just to keep it nice and tight there on the back, but I don't know that it really even needs it. It's on there pretty good, and it still gives me room for my hands to grip on both sides. So that worked out actually perfectly. The wires are ready to come down and through. I'll make a dedicated hole in this hatch back here for them to come down to the battery bank, which will be in the center right here in the back to keep weight evenly distributed. I did get two red reflectors for the back, which I've mounted to that back piece of redwood, one on either side. And then, of course, I have my turn signals here. And it also has, if you didn't see the other video, this particular model, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. It's pretty cool. It has a motion sensor, which allows it to act as a brake light when it senses that you're slowing down. And it also has an alarm that you can set so that, in fact, let's just do it. Let me set the alarm on it. There you go. So when you move it, the alarm will start to go off. There it goes. Yeah, pretty neat, huh? All right, let's kill that. Great. Yeah, so I like that feature as well, in addition to having turn signals and being a light. So it has just a few light options. You can cycle through them here. That was me, yeah. My wife's like, who's stealing your bike? Flashers. Yeah, and that's so anyway, you have a variety of options of what kind of lighting you want in the back. I really dig that. You also can just pop it off pretty easily and charge it with a USB-C port. And since it's so close to where my battery bank is going to be, I can actually just take a wire out and plug it in to charge it when needed without removing it from the trailer. Also pretty cool. All right. So in the front here, I have added a few items. This is the Mark 13 version of the Survivor Gauntlet that I design and market. If you're interested in this, I'll leave a link in the description below. I might even put it on at the end to just show you how it works, but I keep one of these with me whenever I'm going out on a long adventure. Because it's full of survival gear that fits into a really compact package that slips right onto my arm like a gauntlet. So it's my ideal survival tool, and I recommend it highly. Over here in a plastic bag, which is the plastic bag that came around surrounding my battery bank, is the power cord for the battery bank. This is kind of my dry capsule, so I've got a tarp in here. It's a 6x8 foot camouflage tarp that I can throw over the trailer in case I get caught in a rainstorm and need to stop. And then the battery charger, of course, can just live in this vessel. The bag that it's in will probably end up, if in the event of a heavy downpour, going over the battery bank so that it doesn't take any damage should my waterproofing fail. I like redundancy. So that's where I've got so far. Now it's time to start adding features to the inside. First up, the battery bank itself is going to go right in the middle to evenly distribute the weight. I'm going to figure out a way to keep it from shifting. It does have some pads on the bottom, and it's fairly heavy, so I don't foresee it shifting around too much. But, just in case, if I hit a big bump, I don't want things moving around in the trailer. So I'm going to try to lock everything in to where it actually goes and give everything that goes in here a dedicated space to live with a bit of housing. So that is part A of the battery system, to which the dedicated solar panel will wire to a plug that plugs into the DC input here. And then there will be a port in that wiring system where I can plug in other panels that will run in line with this one, so that I increase the amperage but not the voltage. And those panels are here. I bought these two as a set. They came together at a discounted price, which was pretty nice. This is a 40-watt unfoldable solar panel system, and in addition to the plug that this came with, to charge it from the wall socket, this also came with a port to charge it from a car battery. If you could just plug it into your car's cigarette lighter outlet. That's pretty neat. And then this came with a cord that will charge that as well. So it's kind of a pair unit. So I've got some wiring to work with when I begin to work on that circuit. But first things first, I'm going to try to situate these two so that they don't move. My plan is to add some Velcro to the back of this case here. It's a really nice case, by the way. I'm really pleased with this product, and it's just beautiful. And add some Velcro to the wall so that this snugs up and locks against the wall. I think that's going to be a pretty elegant solution. It's still going to leave me a lot of space to add other items. So that is the plan for now, and then I need to figure out a way to get some foot mounts around that battery bank so that it doesn't shift during transit. Sweet, I finally got my adapter in. This took a couple of weeks to get in. I had to order, this is the only piece that did not come with the secondhand trailer that I picked up that somebody put on the curb. Everything else was there except for this. It was probably still on the back of their bicycle. So I ordered a new one, only cost $10, not too bad. It's very super sturdy and industrial. This goes on my rear wheel on the axle. And then the nut just slides right back on the bolt over it and locks down. This kicks out at an angle and has a hole in it
So this rod mounts inside the trailer attachment, and then there's one of those clips that goes through the middle to keep everything intact. And then there's also a fabric strap loop just in case. I don't even know if that's necessary, but it couldn't hurt to use it. So yeah, I'm gonna get this installed, and I'm excited to get things secured so I can actually give this thing a little test drive.
All right, I got the Velcro installed both on the trailer and on the back of my solar panels, the bag, and it works really, really well. I took it on its first test drive just to make sure nothing was rattling and just like installed improperly before I started packing up gear, and everything was fine. The solar panel was totally fine. I haven't even zip tied it yet, and I went down a purposefully bumpy path just to make sure everything was solid. And it was. So here's the shot of that connection, so you can see how the everyday trailer attaches. That's pretty solid junction too. Yeah, so I'm pretty pleased. I'm going to go ahead and start getting the gear laid in. And then once I'm happy with the inside, I'm going to start working on the hatches, which is kind of the final touch at this point. I did go ahead and install some hinges for the front hatch here on the redwood piece that supports the solar panel. So I have two of those hinges. And I initially was going to put the hinges here, but then I thought I really want them back farther. So I'm glad that redwood ended up where it was, because I want to make sure that the hatch goes back farther and all the way down and a little bit farther over the sides. Just in case I get a heavy rain, I don't want to, take a chance of any rain leaking through at a seam crack. I'm also going to go ahead and use more of this weather stripping than I did along the sides here to go along the inside seam before I do that front hatch. Yeah, but we're getting there rapidly, and it's super exciting.
All right, quick update. I have made the back hatch panel. It is a bit of a complicated design. I went ahead and used a method of just cutting 3 different panels and using the construction adhesive to put them together at the angles that they need to be, and then I've gone ahead with my weather stripping and did the outlining, all but the top and the bottom so far because I've run out of weather stripping, so I'm going to pick up some more of that. And I think what I'm going to try to do is run magnet strip tape along here and along the back hatch panel. That may not be secure enough though. From time to time with magnets, all the bumps of the road, I don't want this hatch panel just falling off while I'm riding and me not noticing until I'm further down the line. That would just be terrible. So magnet tape might not be enough in the end, but I think I'm going to start there and see if it works and kind of put it through its paces, and then maybe add hinges or something a little bit more industrial if it doesn't hold up well. That being said, I'm going to move on to constructing the front hatch next and getting that lined up and installed. All right, so fast forward a full entire year since the last clips you've been watching. We went from the deluge of January 2023 to just finishing the deluge of February 2024 here in Southern California. Yes, a whole year has passed and an entire month, and we are in the next rainy season. So I'm back to working on the trailer. It's basically finished, so I wanted to do kind of a show and tell. I didn't film a lot of this, my apologies, but let's take a look at what I've done and wrap this up for anybody who's interested.
Right, there she is in all her glory. The first thing I want to point out is a bit of battle damage. The trailer has fallen once. This joining mechanism is not the most secure in the world, and to be fair, it was really my fault. I was going too fast, and I hit a curb and knocked one wheel over. The good news is, even though the trailer fell sideways, the bike didn't get pulled over with it, so all was well in the end. As you can see, I've added solar panels on the side, ambient panels that are all wired together, so now I've got 3 total. They are 10-watt panels each. I am pulling more than 10 watts from the top one. However, the sides at any one time only are giving about 4 or 5. And obviously, only one's going to be pointed towards the sun, depending on which direction I'm riding at any given time. So it's anywhere between 12 to 18 watts ambient. Let's open. Oh, as you can see, the dry storage containers. I've got my camping gear and tarp in here. I've got my electronics in here to to charge the e-bike with, and then also to charge the battery pack in case I need to plug it in somewhere for any reason. in case of an emergency. Yeah, there she blows. So let me open up the front hatch here. You see I put a nice piece of redwood on the front. This flips all the way over like that. I do have magnet strips lining the inside. However, my magnet strips, they're just not doing really the job that they're supposed to do of holding it down. Fortunately, it's the weight of the redwood on the front is doing a good job of that. As you can see, my ambient panels are currently plugged in to the input. It's not taking any wattage at the moment because the battery is full. Behind that, or underneath it, I suppose, I've got a box to carry it in to keep it nice and padded and cushioned on the ride. My sleeping pad is underneath that, my sleeping blanket. I've got my lid for my pot, tucks nicely into the back there. My cook pot down there, some toilet paper in that green bag. I've got a cold bag for beverages. I've got this clipboard, which works as a cutting board, and this is my general camping kit, which I will show you on another video when I actually go on a bike packing and camping trip. Oh, and then of course we've got the foldable 40-watt solar panel system here tucked in on the side. So that is the contents presently. I also usually throw a jacket in here, and if I'm not wearing my helmet, there's space for that too. Sometimes all of this gear comes out, and it comes out pretty easily, and I use the trailer to do grocery shopping as well. Oh, another note, I have redwood on the top, but I've used a piece of metal here on the bottom to secure the hatch on the back, and that worked pretty well. Before I close this up, you'll see these on the inside. These guys slide out, and they are tent stakes with about 10 feet of paracord wound up on each. So essentially you can undo them, pull them out, stake them down, or tie them off on a tree, and the front hatch will come out at a flat angle, and the tarp can flow over it. So the trailer actually becomes a little camper as well. Pretty cool design feature. Let me close that up. All right, now coming around to the back side, you can see I have my ambient panel wired actually through this top panel there. It works pretty well. You'll see some rope tied up here. I actually had a bedroll and a yoga mat hanging from this to use for camping, but someone stole it when I was at the Whole Foods. So not ideal. I guess lesson learned, keep everything you want to keep inside your trailer and keep the alarm on. One other feature you'll note back here is I did put the back hatch in, and I used a bit of redwood and some hinges to secure it. Lift that up and you have backside access. There you go. I've got the alarm turn signal mechanisms. I've got my reflectors. It's pretty roadworthy, I have to say. After that one fall, I took it easy for a while, but then I just decided to push it again and see how much it would take, how much rocking it would take, both unloaded and fully loaded down. And really, I've got the hang of it now. I don't foresee it falling again unless if something crazy happens. And it's a pretty stable trailer all in all. I'm super pleased. I love the design aesthetic. It came out like a teardrop. So it is ready for a bike packing trip, and I will show you that in a future video to come. I hope you liked this trailer build for the Copper Chopper, and I will see you next time on Make and Believe.